Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Content Corner. My name is Andy Hoop from Global E-Commerce Experts, and we're here to successfully expand e-commerce sellers into Europe. Welcome to day two. This is today's Content Corner. It's a new version of what we're doing, slightly rebranded, slightly different, and it's more it's exactly the same. It's the same content. It's the same things we're talking about. It's talking about how to give you the tactics, the insights, and the knowledge of how you successfully expand into Europe. And we're just doing them slightly different by going live. That gives me the commitment that I've got to go live every day. It gives me the information that I need to be able to give you so you can effectively scale and grow your business in Europe. So thank you very much for joining me. And today what we're going to be doing is following on from some of the things we were discussing yesterday, because yesterday what we really focused on was talking about the pathway. I'm just going to pull that up so you can see a slight example of that. So yesterday what we did is we talked through the 7-step pathway. And what we're going to be doing today is just diving a little bit deeper into that. But as you can see, the first one is about market research. Well, when we start talking about market research, the one thing that we're going to really need to focus on is what is the European market? What does that actually look like? What does that actually say? Who are we actually talking to? Because one of the biggest questions I actually get is, Andy, what does the European market actually mean? Well, I think the first thing to say, the European market, in fact, let me back up a second. Let's just deal with Brexit. So is the UK part of Europe? Yes. Is the UK part of the European Union? No. So that's the slight difference. So yes, UK is still part of Europe, but it's not part of the European Union, which is very, very important from a customs point of view and things like that. So when I'm talking about Europe here, I'm going to be splitting that into Europe, the European Union, and the UK, because we are here to successfully expand sellers into Europe. And what originally happened was we were expanding people from outside the European Union in. Of course, what's happened since Brexit is we're now re-establishing people based in the UK, re-establishing their services, their products, their brands in Europe post-Brexit, because we already knew how to do that. We've been doing that very successfully for a very long time. And we've already done that with thousands of sellers. So actually it was straightforward and easy for us to do that. Exactly the same from Europe coming into the UK. It's very easy for us to be able to go from Europe into the UK. So it's really, really critical that you understand that actually what we're talking about here is slightly two different things, but all in one. So I think the first thing to say is that how big is the European market? Like, what do you want to know? As an e-commerce seller, you want to know, okay, how many people have I got the potential to reach? Well, depends on which stats you go for, and I'm going for the European stats, and that is 446 million people in 27 countries. Now, if you add the UK into that, it's almost another 70 million people, and obviously makes it the 28th country. So that gives you a broad understanding. When you start thinking about what's the scale of the opportunity, well, the scale of the opportunity is 500 plus million people. I mean, that's a huge number of people to be targeting your brand and focusing on. Now, in all honesty, where does the difficulty come with that? Well, when you start talking about 28 countries, you're typically talking about 28 languages. Now, there's several languages that the majority of Europe speak. Now, English, the good news is one of them. A lot of people in those countries all understand English. But in all honesty, in order to get to each of those markets, you're going to need to be able to speak some of those languages. Now, not you necessarily, but your brand. And I'm going to come on to that at a later date and start talking about what that actually looks like for the different parts of translation. So we'll come on to translations when we start getting to marketplace launch, because it's absolutely critical you've got the right translation in the right country. But let me give you some people that buy online. Let me give you a flavor of what that looks like, right? So Germany is the largest market for people, but the number of people buying online, which is just over 62 million people. The UK comes next with 57 million people. But when you start wrapping that up slightly differently, now it's all very well known how many people buy online, but I don't know about you, but I want to know how much do they spend online. And that's the critical piece. So in the UK, they might only have 57 million people buying online, but they spend 76 billion. Okay. In Germany, there's 62 million people, so broadly 5 million more people spending on money online, but actually it's actually only 60 billion worth of spend. So broadly, there's 5 million less people online spending in the UK, but they're spending 16 billion more. So actually the UK, depending on which way you carve it up, and everyone's going to have a different opinion, but I'm giving you some of the stats, yeah, is that the UK market is slightly larger. But what I typically say to sellers, just like you, is that the European market falls into thirds. A third of the market is the UK, a third of the market is Germany, and a third of the market is France, Italy, and Spain. Now, the other markets, the other countries we've talked about, are filling that in behind. And those numbers are very, very broad, but it gives you a great understanding, because I want to know, like you want to know, how many people are there and how many people can I target my specific product to? Because when we start looking at market research, one of the key things that we want to understand is, if you look at this top left, this middle left hexagon, what you're going to see is that market research. Now, what we want to know is, who is your target market? Who are you trying to reach? When you're reaching them, it's all very well reaching them, but what do you actually need to do in order to get to them? How many of your products could you sell? And if you now know that 76 billion is spent in e-commerce in the UK, well, actually it gives you a great starting point to think, well, I'll tell you what I can do. I can focus my energy on one market. Now, when we start talking about entrance strategies into the European market, this is where we start looking at what products do you sell? What does that look like? That market research that you're going to do, the feasibility study, the sourcing, whatever that takes, you're going to be able to understand where that goes and where that needs to get to, because you want to know effectively how many people you can reach. But who is your target market? If you understand your target market, we can then work back from how much of that 76 billion is spent in bed linen? How much of that 76 billion is spent in sports, water bottles? How much of that is spent in, and you see where I'm going. So actually what we need to understand is your market research really needs to get under the hood of those individual pieces. So that's what I want you to leave you today. I just want to give you the overall picture, the size and scale of the opportunity that is available to you. Because for me, we want to successfully expand brands into Europe. That's what we do. That's what we're passionate about. And that's what we want to make happen. But you can only do that with the right data and the right information. There's circa 550 million people that you could be expanding your brand to. And you can do that knowing that with a solid piece of market research. So now's the time to start looking at your research, start focusing on what you want to do. We're coming into the busy period. Q4 is absolutely rammed. You've got to focus on absolutely smashing your brand, getting your stock where it needs to be, when it needs to be there. As we start getting late into Q4, you need to be turning to Q1. Your focus should be about looking at Q1, what you need to do, what you need to develop, how you need to be getting it there, what steps you need to be taking, and expansion and growth is the key area you need to be going to. If you know that you're thinking you want to sell to an aggregator and you need 1 million EBITDA, well, actually, if all of a sudden there's another 500 million people you can expand to, that's a benefit. So that's it from me. My name's Andy Hooper from Global E-commerce Experts, here to successfully expand e-commerce brands into Europe. Please feel free to get in contact with us through the usual channels should you need any information or advice. And we really, really want to see your brand expand into Europe and absolutely catapulting it into where it should be. The bad news for me is I tend to love all these brands and I end up buying everything. I'm a compulsive Amazon buyer and I can't help myself but buy products. Anyway, that's it from me. Stay safe, look after yourself. My name is Andy from Global E-commerce Experts, successfully expanding your brand into Europe. Take care.